The steam era was nearing the end of its lifespan. This was going to be a difficult issue for the major railroads operating by steam power, especially for the Norfolk and Western, who had a long standing policy of only operating steam locomotives for their freight and passenger service, not to mention coal since they used coal. For the N&W, they were going to have to find a way to keep utilizing steam engines, or specifically steam power for mainline use for the trains and passenger service, so in order to avoid having dieselization occur on all the railroads, or just them in general. By the early 1950s, the Baldwin Locomotive Works was looking to test the idea of steam turbine locomotives, meaning testing the advantages of what a steam turbine can or couldn't do when operating on railroads. All those was adapted by Baldwin's chief engineer, Ralph P. Johnson. A few years into the 50s, in May 1954, a new locomotive was built for the Norfolk and Western from the Baldwin family, mainly pulling freight and coal service for the N&W to their destinations. This locomotive is Norfolk and Western 2300, or Jawn Henry for short. It was a Baldwin 6666 4500 TE class steam turbine locomotive model. The engine's name, Jawn Henry, was inspired by the name of Jawn Henry, an American folk hero who was famous for racing against a steam-powered railroad ways, before immediately dying later due to broken heart syndrome. The locomotive had a length of 161 feet at 1 inches, with a total weight of 1,182,100 pounds calculated. The fuel capacity had 20 short tons with water and coal combined, and tracked at Bedford, which measured at 100,444 feet at 9 miles, with horsepower being calculated at 4,500 total, meaning it could carry more tonnage on less fuel than the other steamers we felt when driving at lower speeds. By the appearance of the locomotive, you could tell that it looked like the Chesapeake and Ohio Class M1 fleet, despite operating with different mechanics on the surface. After its delivery, the locomotive was tested for freight service on lines like the Pennsylvania Railroad, Chesapeake and Ohio, and of course the Norfolk and Western. However, did it put up the performance as people expected? Maybe? Okay.
No! No!
Safe to say, like the M1, they had some problems with the Jawn Henry falling in a similar predicament. The engine was equipped with a Wilcox water tube boiler that had automatic controls, making it often that coal and sometimes water would end up entering the traction motors, causing breakdowns and other problems that occur when operating. Not even Roanoke steamboats could work out the problems. The controls also made it extremely complicated to operate, as you may not know which is which. The locomotive was also longer than any other N&W steam locomotive on the rail line, including the Union Pacific Big Boy. Yet it couldn't fit on turntables or roundhouses. Eventually, the N&W regulated the engine to help reduce services between Roanoke, Virginia, and Belford, West Virginia, where it had limited time pulling trains on its own. Started dieselization only further to decline faster, as major railroads bought diesels from all over the place, effectively putting steam service out of business, with the N&W following the process soon after. The Norfolk and Western would continue using the locomotive for a few more years before it was eventually retired and scrapped in 1958. As a result, the locomotive was just kind of like a last attempt to prove that steamers were still superior, but in the end, it was concluded that the results were quite clear. Steam power was very expensive, and it was later harder to keep up with the prices and costs that they had. Sometimes you have to accept that times were just changing. However, despite the short lifespan that Jawn Henry had, it was a marvel-looking engine to look at. It was also the longest engine ever built, surpassing the Brickyard for the first time. Hell, even in some lost museums, it still appear in present day. Eventually, whether the results are bad or good, you cannot deny it's an interesting take in the railway world.